letting people go or firing somehow became a negative thing. But in my experience, when I'm unhappy with someone, they're generally unhappy with us too. And letting them go is really the best thing for both sides. I've had emails from previous employees telling me, thank you for letting me go. I found a place where I'm much happier. And actually that was the learning for me of, wow, here I'm trying to keep people when really they're miserable here as a result. And I was doing them a disservice as well as the company a disservice. So my bottom line on that is, if you have to implement that software, then you already know you have a problem. And instead of dealing with the problem, you're just implementing one more excuse not to deal with the problem.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Flexibility across your organization is important. We know in the light of COVID and coronavirus that we've had to be very flexible as we worked virtually together. Many organizations thought it was impossible for their teams to create the kind of connections, get the work done in this work environment, working from home. And they've held strong to that for many years. But the reality is, many companies I've talked to and leaders have said there's some elements about us working together in our own environments and having that level of flexibility have actually been very good for us as a culture and within our company. Now, I'm not saying everyone wants to continue this forever because many people are losing that connection they really feel from their teams. But I want you to think about flexibility as a leader. Are you putting the emphasis that you need to across the company? Having flexible employees really does drive growth if you know how to use it and leverage it. Today's guest is Anthony Geraci with Geraci Law Firm. They've grown really fast, over 10 million. Their growth rate has been astronomical, growing at over 200% in the last 3 years. And when I talked to him, he said, it really feels like that was impossible and I can't see how people grow faster. And that level of adaptability has been really important to the overall growth of the organization and really how they work together. Now, I share this with you because I love this conversation around leaders that have the comfort to allow flexibility. One area that we talk about is time. Do you allow your people to work on their own time when they work at their best, or do you have set hours? Now, if you think about it, and many of the things that you're rethinking right now is working at your best hours are better than working a set hours because of the flexibility required and really you showing up to be your best self. There are certain hours I work better than others, and I would want to prioritize that inside my own schedule, and your employees may want to do that as well. I love this interview for many reasons, but make sure you keep tuned in to Grow Think Tank, and here's the interview with Anthony. Before we dive into the interview, I wanted to remind you that you can actually get a tool that I've been working with clients with for the last couple of years. I've refined this tool that's gone through several iterations. Now we have it completely automated. You can actually go online and fill out the leadership quiz. To get the leadership quiz, just go to theleadershipquiz.com. That's pretty easy, right? Theleadershipquiz.com. What you will get when you do that is you will answer a few questions. You will see where you rate based on the core principles of fast growth companies. If you're ready to grow your company or you want to see where you are, then make sure you go to theleadershipquiz.com. Inside it, you will get insight to where you are, understand where you want to improve, and you will get them mapped into the 10 areas that are most specific to fast growth companies. Again, go to theleadershipquiz.com and you can get that right now. Anthony, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Fantastic. We are getting a little stir crazy through the COVID-19 kind of shelter in place, and excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here. And same. I'm ready to go to restaurants again.
Well, I want to talk about growing your company fast, but let's really get some context to who you are and what you do. I'm assuming attorney at law, but your company is Geraci Law Firm?
Correct.
So tell us about, kind of the market you're in.
Yeah. So what we do is we serve, if you will, lenders, from banks all the way to, I would say our core niche is representing private money lenders or non-bank lenders, as you may have heard in the news. So anyone from a one-man shop all the way up to, besides banks, our biggest non-bank lenders have almost $1 billion under management, and everybody in between. So it's a huge, what I would say, pseudo culture before, but also it's really become mainstream as Wall Street buys more and more into the private lending sector.
Well, you've grown your company fast. It's been a pretty good journey for you. You were number 1861 in 2019, over 200% growth, over 10 million, 45 plus employees. Is all that about right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a journey.
I know that a lot of companies like yourself are proud of growing fast, but I know there's usually something else they're more proud of. What would you say that is within your perspective?
Yeah, for me, it's about building something bigger than myself, if you will. Growing fast is wonderful, of course, but it's also the fact that you almost feel validated, or at least I feel validated. We built this "they will come" mentality, if you remember Field of Dreams, and we're building towards something that's really adding value to our clients, in this case, private lenders. Not just being, if you will, their lawyer, but also being a big part of their market and assisting them any way we can with our connections, our contacts, what have you.
Well, I really understand that because I have left a business that I grew really fast, and I just didn't feel like I was really living my purpose. What I'm currently doing now, having this podcast is a part of that, is I feel like part of my legacy. Anthony, you have put a lot of focus on the culture of the business and specifically on having flexibility. Why is flexibility so important as you've grown fast?
I think the biggest thing is really people want flexibility. One of the books I read, I think a lot of business people read it, was Drive by Daniel Pink, and really gave a lot of impact to me, which was that I think most people don't just crave to show up at work and, if you will, do a bad job and what have you. They really want to contribute to something. They want autonomy and they want flexibility. To me, I wanted to grow something, and I want them to, have the flexibility in what they want, and because I think happier people, contribute more than, say, neutral or negative people.
Hold on for a second. Anthony just talked about flexibility. Another word for flexibility is adaptability. And we all want to create an organization where we have a high degree of adaptability. Things change. New technologies, new processes, maybe the client's needs have changed. And we want to make sure our employees aren't so set in their ways that they're looking around the corner, looking for those places so that they can better serve the clients. Maybe take advantage of technology. Being the kind of leader that encourages people to be adaptable is very important. And you want to make sure you hire them in the first place that have that ability to be adaptable. If they're so rigid, it really makes it difficult for them to grow and learn. And we know that's really important as you continue to be the leader that your team deserves. Now back to the interview. Now, flexibility has probably served you pretty well through this shutdown, through the COVID thing. How has it really impacted you?
I wish I could say I completely predicted this, because honestly, from the time we got the order from our local government, which is Orange County here in California, to the time we were back operational was less than an hour. I, of course, predicted this 4 years ago. No, not really. What it came down to, though, is we did flexibility, and the vision 4 years ago was, if you wanted to work from the beach, so be it. Go work from the beach and be happy. We invested a lot in our technology. We were one of the earliest adopters, in my opinion, at least, back in 2008, of voice over IP. And that gave the flexibility to connect over the internet with your phone systems. Fast forward to 4 years ago, to us, it was probably the first time we could find that overall package of using a phone system, but also having our servers virtual. The whole theory was, if a bomb dropped on our building, could we still be operational? And of course, the answer is resounding yes. Today, no one works at the office right now, which of course begs a different question of paying the rent and everything like that. But today, everybody's working remotely, and I would say just as well, if not maybe even better, than at the office.
I saw Twitter announce recently that they were allowing their employees to work from home like indefinitely.
Yeah.
I know I'm not saying that you're making that call, but kind of curious, what do you think about the future of coming out of this COVID thing as it relates to your law firm?
I'm in between, if you will. I think what a lot of us are missing, and again, I'll speak for myself rather than everybody, is that connection. And I love technology, I adopt it, I use it, but I'm missing those connections personally. I'm missing that face-to-face or just general discussions. Virtual happy hours are fun and everything, but it's still, I still miss being able to see someone face-to-face and look them in the eye.
I agree with you. I want to get back to this whole aspect of flexibility. Like, I know that you have taken some specific steps to allow this, and what areas of flexibility do you consider when you're being intentional about this?
Absolutely. So I would compare it, I guess, to the rigid corporate structure of 9 to 5, even that I think is prevailing in most law firms. We transitioned to, I would call, results-oriented work environment. And I tell people, every single attorney who works for us, every single person who supports them, you really have one job: make your clients happy. How you do it, I don't care. If you want to come in at 10 a.m. and you're getting your job done, I'm not going to say a word to you. If you need to work 12-hour days, whatever it takes to make our clients happy, it's more results oriented rather than show up. You need to have FaceTime with me to make sure you're around. We don't believe in any of that. It's the results really show in how happy our clients are, as well as how happy you are, and I think you directly see it in the revenue.
What have you done to make sure the team works efficiently through this? I think you even said that they're working better through this work at home environment.
Yeah, for a lot of us, we have weekly meetings. I still have a weekly management meeting. Like I said, there was no downtime. Instead of meeting face to face, we met via Zoom. So I think Zoom is kind of the quintessential video system. Not promoting them necessarily. I own no stock, but whatever that is for you, for us it's Zoom. So we're seeing each other face to face on our weekly meetings. Still asking the same questions, still bonding, still discussing different ideas and different aspects. So like I said, those are still the things that are happening. I suspect, but I don't know, people are still communicating in other meetings, getting together, calling each other one-on-one. We use Slack for instant messaging besides Zoom, and we have a general chat room. I think everybody with Slack has that, where people just discuss different things are going on or what have you. So very much, I think the thing that we focused on and still exists is our community, our people, still bonding together and getting stuff done. I would say what we don't have anymore is, I'm so bored. Let me go talk and walk to the water cooler to discuss things. You don't need to actually get up and walk anymore. You could Zoom people, you could Slack them. Everything is still at your desk. And I think people are spending more time, if you will, at the computer bonding as well as just getting back to work. So like I said, it's probably a little bit better.
Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been some articles put out. There's some new software that has been really making the rounds around taking small screenshots of computer screens to make sure people are actually working. A lot of people think it's invasion of privacy, and it's certainly borderlines not trusting your employees. What do you think about those kinds of big brother, I'll say, technologies?
I don't believe in any of that personally. Honestly, I think it's just one more excuse of now I have evidence that I'm going to fire you. In my experience, at least, I've been doing this now 15 years. When you have a problem employee, they're not producing. You have many other signs. And to me, the screenshots is just one more excuse of, I need that one more piece of evidence, instead of, being a leader, if you will, and having that heart-to-heart conversation of, look, I can clearly see you're not doing your job here. We have an issue. And the issue could be you're not happy here. And I think, letting people go or firing somehow became a negative thing. But in my experience, when I'm unhappy with someone, they're generally unhappy with us too. And letting them go is really the best thing for both sides. I've had emails from previous employees telling me, thank you for letting me go. I found a place where I'm much happier. And actually that was the learning for me of, wow, here I'm trying to keep people when really they're miserable here as a result. And I was doing them a disservice as well as the company a disservice. So my bottom line on that is, if you have to implement that software, then you already know you have a problem. And instead of dealing with the problem, you're just implementing one more excuse not to deal with the problem.
One more second here. Anthony just talked about letting people go. One of the things I want you to think about is when you have gotten all of the money aligned, your partners, your customers, your employees, your executive team, all the stakeholders are in alignment together, and one person gets out of line, your moral obligation is to make sure that you have a conversation to get them to either step up or get going. Now, you may look at this a different way. It's either coaching them up or coaching them out. Your job is to understand when to do each of those and when to let go of those employees. I learned this from the interview I had with Horst Schulze and the conversations I've had with him afterwards. He's a co-founder of Ritz-Carlton, and he really shed a light on this in a unique way. That interview is very powerful if you want to check it out. But I wanted to share it with you here because letting go of people has been a hard decision for many leaders to make. It takes courage, but it's necessary. It's a moral obligation. Back to the interview. I love that perspective, and I don't think it will take, really become a strong factor. I can't believe these companies like really are selling this efficiently, because it really does have an invasion of privacy kind of feel. Like if you don't trust your employees to do the work, like there's a bigger problem.
I have them. Yeah.
Now, flexibility is one thing, and I know younger workers actually really want some flexibility. And some of them actually, what I've heard behind this, they thought they wanted to work from home, and many of them are like, you know what, I really don't want to work at home all the time. I just want to be able to, if I needed to. When you think about flexibility, where do you draw the line?
I mean, I draw the line, I guess, maybe because we have a lot of different metrics that measure things. Again, client happiness, we have a client NPS score, Net Promoter Score. So we know when a client is or is not happy. And maybe it's the legal profession, but clients are not shy about sharing why they're unhappy. They know that somebody's not serving them for a variety of reasons. So to me, that's one aspect of objective evidence. And for me, we've tried to deal away with all subjective evidence as much as we can. And what are the objective measurements? One is client happiness. Another, for at least attorneys, is billable hours. We know, whether we don't focus on it, we know you have to bill a certain amount of hours to exist and be doing the work. And the people who don't bill, the attorneys rely on them. So we're gonna have complaints if you want an internal promoter score of, I have a complaint about an employee. So we also do have an employee net promoter score as well. So we have both of them kind of measuring what's going on. But again, also, we're gonna know if there's issues, and we can investigate further from that. So I don't know if I quite answered your question, but we have objective measurements that really, I'm sure there's ways to hide in the system, but we're not that big at 50 employees where we're going to know, I think, at some point.
I'm familiar with the NPS, and maybe others aren't. How exactly are you using this to be able to get that feedback, like from a timing standpoint, and then what do you do with it, Anthony?
Absolutely. So a Net Promoter Score is really a survey, and the whole goal is for both employee and customer to keep it as simple as possible. In fact, the traditional Net Promoter Score has 2 questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you recommend our firm to a friend of yours? And if the score is below a 6, tell us why. So how the Net Promoter Score works, if you get a 10 or a 9, it's a +1. If you get an 8 or a 7, it's neutral. Anything 6 and below is a -1. You aggregate all that up and you get a score of something. So it could be a negative number, and God forbid, I hope it's not a negative number for you. We generally hover in the 40s or 50s. So definitely work to be done, but nothing that's screaming, the ship's sinking. So.
When you think about the timing of this, do you do it at certain times, like in the beginning of the relationship, toward the middle, only at the end? What have you learned over your journey here?
Yeah, so we do it quarterly, and to not inundate our clients, we'll do it to half our clients, so they get twice a year, just to make sure we check the pulse on them and we measure the scores. And if people take the time to give us feedback, I don't know about you, but feedback to me is so meaningful. I actually thank clients who tell me off or tell me a very negative review, because it gives me a chance to fix it and really work on the business itself. Versus someone giving a number, 4, but not telling me why. I'm still actually happy about the number 4, so I try to find out why they're unhappy with us. For me, and I think for a lot of companies, but I'll speak again for myself, is data is so needed. I don't know where we're screwing up, and maybe that's one of the headaches of a bigger business, is I realize so much more in reports than I did 15 years ago. when it's just me, in a 47 square foot office. So
Anthony, we've talked about flexibility, and I know that the journey of leadership is never one of a perfect record. You probably made some mistakes in this thing. What comes to mind that you can share with us today about a mistake that you made that really shifted or was a defining moment for your own leadership?
Oh gosh, we're talking personal, technology. I've made so many.
Let's stick to the business side. We can talk about personal later.
But yeah, so I mean, business side, like I said, I think I kind of mentioned it before, but my biggest mistake is really looking at letting someone go or firing somebody wrong. It is such a negative connotation in our culture. And I bought into that for a while. And then, like I said, I still, of course, still have this negative connotation. I fired somebody. They were not happy. They weren't even showing up to work, or showing up spotty, if you will, clearly just not engaged. And even after trying to talk with them, they didn't want to open up, and they were just unhappy. So I finally let them go. And I got an email, funny enough, 3 months later from the employee saying, thank you so much for letting me go. I was unhappy. You know it as well as I know it. And really, I found a place where I'm happier. And the really result was we were growing fast, still are. And I found that some people are happier in a smaller environment. What I think Marshall Goldsmith said, what got you there won't get you here. And same thing with people too. People don't necessarily want to grow. They want to stay where they feel successful at. And I think that's what this person was really struggling with and didn't know how to explain it. And so after letting them go, I really realized it's a two-party relationship, being an employer and employee. And funny enough, when I'm frustrated, likely they are too. So that was a learning experience. And so I do try to coach people to grow. But if they're not bought in, I also tell people, this is a time to really consider whether you want to be here or find a place where you can be happy. Because I do believe you will find happiness wherever you want to be. And it just may not be it with our company.
And it's so true. And I know it's hard to have these difficult conversations, but it is necessary for everyone. I love the fact. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I made those mistakes too, right? And what I found in not having the difficult conversations is that slow burning fire becomes a 4-alarm fire because I was too cowardly to have those conversations. And I learned from that as well, of just have them.
Anthony, I want to wrap this up with a chance to maybe weigh in on something we haven't talked about as it relates to the growth of your business. What is the other contributing factor that you think has really, moved the needle?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many. I'll talk about, I think, something that doesn't get talked enough about, which is myself. And I was the big limiter in my company. Let's go with that. In order to fastly grow, it really comes down to, for me, it was me in a 47 square foot office, like I said, one person that became 2, became 4, became 50. And I've had to change every step of the way. I've had to reinvent myself. And the biggest thing I've had to do is let go. Recognizing that my solutions are not the only solutions, and I don't have all the ideas, and letting my people make mistakes, letting them grow, and also letting them find ways I didn't think about that really added value to the company. So in 2 words, I had to let go to grow.
You're not alone. I talk to hundreds of founders just like you, and they become the bottleneck. And it's hard when you're in the day-to-day and maybe you've grown it up and it's your baby, but I appreciate you having the self-awareness to realize that. And back to Marshall's famous saying, what got you here won't get you there. And it really is a pleasure to have you on the show, Anthony.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed being here and really appreciate all you're doing for the community. Thank you so much.
I love interviewing people that have their finger on the pulse of growth. And Anthony is another example of that, growing as fast as they have as a law firm and continuing to rethink how they operate through this coronavirus aspects of growth and leadership. Anthony is talking about how he's going to change specific things inside the organization to continue to innovate, to continue to create more connection across the team, but also to increase profitability and better serve the clients. How do you do that? Well, he knows his choice is to be more flexible about how things get done, because what got you here may not get you there. Well, I love these conversations because you as a leader are probably thinking about how you could create more flexibility. I know the key behind this is for you to evolve as a leader. My job as a coach is to work with leaders that are in the defining moments of their growth, to help them really understand and get really clear about how to move forward. What's the vision look like? And how do we really identify what's standing in the way? And getting to the root cause is the key. If you have any questions about how I could serve you and your team, make sure you reach out to me, gene@genehammett.com. I love what I do, and I love helping you grow as a leader. So make sure you reach out to me whenever you have a question. I may not be able to work with you immediately, but maybe I have a resource within my network that I can connect you to right away to give you exactly what you need right now. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.